Coming up on Mountain News this morning, yesterday a popular cathedral went up in flames and a local family remembers their visit to it just the day before. Plus, police identified a man killed in a Laurel County house fire on Sunday night, and the body found Thursday night in Perry County has been identified. We will tell you the latest details.
Dedicated to Eastern and Southern Kentucky, this is WYMT Mountain News This Morning.
Good morning. It is 6 o'clock on Tuesday, April the 16th. I'm Will Puckett. Thank you for tuning into Mountain News this morning. It's a chilly start. Brandon's over there putting his hands in front of a small little space heater to stay warm. So we're all feeling the effects of this dogwood winter, but it's supposed to warm up today. So take solace in that. Let's bring Brandon in this morning. He'll give you a better breakdown of what to expect on this Tuesday. Brandon.
Good morning, my friend. And you're right. It is going to warm up a little bit later on today, but it's still cold this morning. Frosty, in fact. Let's take a look at the frost advisory that's in effect until 9 o'clock for most of the region, southern West Virginia, southwest Virginia, and most of eastern and southern Kentucky. A few counties and along I-75 and Lake Cumberland not included because it's warmer out there, closer to 40, 39 in Williamsburg, 38 in London, but mid-30s out toward the eastern half of the state and into parts of West Virginia. A little extra on the coffee meter this morning, and you'll need a couple extra minutes to scrape those windshields off there, at least 1 to 2 minutes extra. But the good news is this afternoon, temperatures in the 70s. Yes, we're going from the 30s to the 70s today. It's going to be a beautiful day. Get out there and enjoy it. I'll have the rest of the forecast coming up here in just a few minutes. Will?
All righty, Brandon, thank you. Officials in Paris are treating the fire that destroyed most of the Notre Dame Cathedral as an accident. French media are reporting the Paris Fire Brigade believe it was potentially linked to a renovation of the church. CBS's Terry Okita is in London with more.
The cross inside the Cathedral of Notre Dame is still standing, even after a fire ripped through this centuries-old building. But its iconic spire eventually fell victim to the flames.
The spire started bending and crawling, and we could not just believe what we were seeing. And then the flames went on and on and on.
Most of the roof is destroyed, but officials say the cathedral's outer walls and 2 bell towers were salvaged. 400 firefighters battled to save the building. They were still spraying water this morning.
Notre Dame is not just a building, it's the beating heart of Paris, and seeing it like an open heart on the medical table, it's heartbreaking.
The mayor of Paris posted to Twitter that the crown of thorns and other major artifacts were saved. It's believed the crown was worn by Christ before the crucifixion. Last night, Parisians and tourists gathered in the surrounding streets to pray and sing hymns.
Notre-Dame de Paris.
French President Emmanuel Macron promised to rebuild Notre Dame.
If they're lucky, they will have laser scanned the building, which means they can make a virtual model that is very accurate. But of course, it would be a copy. It would not be the same thing.
The church, built in the 12th century, was undergoing renovations to shore up its crumbling structure. Terry Okita, CBS News, London.
Now, thankfully, no one was killed in the fire. It started after the cathedral was closed to the public. For one Pike County group, the memories of their trip to the cathedral are very fresh in their minds. Amanda Hamilton and her family are in Europe visiting their cousin Austin Wright. He is spending the semester in Oxford, England. On Sunday, the group stopped there just one day before the fire. They say watching the building go up in flames broke their hearts.
I can't imagine, how the locals must feel after having such, important part of their town destroyed.
The family is currently back in England. Thankfully, they were still able to witness the building's beauty before the disaster. Well, for many, the historic landmark is also a centerpiece of Catholic faith. Millions travel to the cathedral each year, including the University of Kentucky Choir, who are planning a performance there next month. But the fire will likely cancel that part of their trip.
Well, we were planning to do some sacred a cappella music in Notre Dame, and also we were going to sing with organ accompaniment, and our accompanist was going to play the organ, which has sadly been destroyed now. It was one of the most famous organs in the world.
The director says their trip to France will continue with stops at other landmarks like the cemetery at Normandy. Well, this morning there is a giant hole near a gas station in Ashland. An underground gas tank exploded. Heavy flames shot into the air, and as Nick Oliver reports, the explosion led to evacuations for parts of the city.
It wasn't what happened during this video.
I felt the boom.
But what happened before. Ashland firefighters responded to this Sunoco gas station on Winchester Avenue just before 9 a.m. All to reports of a fire, later discovering an explosion within at least one of 3 underground holding tanks of gasoline. Air 3 now showing a crater left behind by the blast.
Had I turned into the gas station to get something to drink, it would have blown up right underneath my car.
Jake Rackley was too close for comfort. He was driving right next to the station, all when that explosion happened.
All of a sudden, here come a big ball of flames and just debris flew everywhere.
He and others close by, including some pumping gas, not hurt. In Jake's case, his car protecting him and taking the brunt of that flying concrete. Across the street, Faith Year with We Care Medical, an equipment store and oxygen holding area, was evacuated for safety.
When we felt the heat, that's what kind of caused us all to be like, okay, we should probably go ahead and evacuate the building. We were honestly surprised our windows didn't bust with it because of how hot it got with us.
Witnesses say the centrally located gas station is usually bustling with people, making it a miracle nobody was injured.
I'm glad it happened in the morning because the likelihood of someone standing over top of that is pretty astronomical because someone would have been standing there typically.
An environmental emergency agency is now working to contain any remaining gas and even checking storm drains. But as to what caused that scary situation, a state fire marshal now taking these images and beginning the lengthy investigation. Nick Oliver, WSAZ News Channel 3.
Now, that evacuation is no longer in effect, but firefighters are continuing to keep a close eye on storm drains to make sure no gas is leaking anywhere else. Well, West Virginia officials are trying a new method to contain an underground mine fire that's been burning for at least 3 years. Officials told the Dominion Post that they think the fire jumped a barrier installed 2 years ago in the Preston County mine. They say work will begin this summer at Brockham Mine number 1. He says the Department of Environment Protection plans to inject a new nitrogen-based foaming agent into mine voids prior to grouting. Well, back in the bluegrass now, police identified a man killed in a Laurel County house fire Sunday night. Troopers say Sunday evening around 7:30, Lilly firefighters were dispatched to Sugar Lane after neighbors called to report smoke coming out of a neighbor's house. Troopers say after flames were put out, firefighters found the body of 58-year-old Charles Barton. Troopers then began a death investigation.
When they arrived on scene and extinguished the flames, they did locate a male subject inside the residence deceased and contacted the state police.
An autopsy was scheduled at the Kentucky State Medical Examiner's office, where troopers say they hope to find a cause of death. The body found Thursday night in Perry County is that of a Viper woman. The Perry County coroner and Kentucky State Police confirmed that it is 31-year-old Mary Napier of Perry County. Officials say that while having a positive identity will help them hopefully find a suspect, the remote area she was discovered in makes it difficult.
Being in the location that it was is just kind of out in the middle of nowhere. Again, as you put it, rural, mountainous area, the terrain where these ATVs are riding. So there's not a great potential for a lot of people to be in that area or possible witnesses.
Funeral services for Mary Napier will be held Wednesday the 17th at Ingle Bowling Funeral Home. On this day in history, April 16th, 2007, 27 Virginia Tech students and 5 teachers were killed in an on-campus shooting. The gunman, a 23-year-old Virginia Tech student, ended the shooting spree when he turned the gun on himself. The shooting is still one of the deadliest mass shootings in modern U.S. history.
And I remember that day very well. I actually was interviewing here for this job on this day in 2007, 12 years ago. Let's take a look at the forecast this morning, and you see the frost advisory in effect until 9 o'clock for most of eastern and southern Kentucky, southwest Virginia, and southern West Virginia this morning. That goes until 9, as was said. And temperatures are chilly this morning, 30s, mid-30s across parts of the area in the eastern counties, and you see some upper 30s down toward the southern counties. Almanac today, forecast high of 74, our average high is 68, record high of 87 back on this day in 2002. Will?
All righty, Brandon, thank you. And thank you for joining us on Mountain News this morning. More news is on the way. Coming up, yesterday was the Boston Marathon, and we will tell you about one Marine who finished the race in honor of fallen comrades. And speaking of the marathon, we'll tell you about a government-sponsored program that turns bystanders into first responders.